Reading, learning, thriving, creating, while building, living, thinking, healing, loving, loving, building, writing while black, black, black.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Writing While Black Ites, and welcome to another episode of Writing While Black. I am your co-host, Angela, and I'm here with your other co-host, Ayoka. Say hello or not. Hey! Today, we are talking about audiobooks, what we've heard. You heard? Let's jump right into the episode. Okay, I post up all of my book reviews on my social media, but I do I thought it was good. And since I think almost every book is good, that's basically my review. I post a picture and be like, oh, I thought it was good. I was on Goodreads for something, and I stumbled upon your Goodreads, and I'm like, this child has 8 million 80-page reviews. What is going? I wanted to talk a little bit about that because our reading styles and probably listening styles and review styles are so different. When I was going to try to find the audios that I hadn't posted anything about yet, I found 11 that I've been listening to or finished, but I haven't posted anything about. You were researching yesterday and getting prepared. How many books do you have on your list?
14.
Okay.
14.
Okay.
I'm a one book at a time girl.
Is this all of your audio from 2025?
There were a couple from 2024 because I don't have with the
Audiobooks.
But I would listen to audiobooks for memoir. Basically, that was it. And
in the past.
Yes. So I didn't have a lot of audiobook experience.
Oh, so
right.
Getting
and
some
so
experience.
Right. Plus, I know that it hits different. It's just a different, literally, experience. And I know that it hits us differently. We learn in all different ways. Give this a chance. I'm such a book nerd. I like to hold books.
Yeah.
But, I've had to get over that, too, because of where I am and my access to getting books. Well, not even access. I'm impatient. I want the book right away. And shipping books here is not a quick or expedient process. So I've had to form a love affair with ebooks. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why me getting into audiobooks took longer, because I like to hold the book. I like to make notes. I like to, you know what I'm saying? I'm a nerd.
Right. Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to talk about, because I remember when we did Sky Full of Elephants and I saw your annotation system, I was like, what? Every once in a while when I'm reading a book, there might be something that just hits me. Like, I remember there was one time I was reading some Walter Mosley, and I ended up typing it into Facebook because I didn't know what to do. It was just like, oh my gosh, I want to capture this. But usually when I read, it's more of kind of the way that I am with studying in relationships. I usually let things come in layers. So it just kind of washes over me, and whatever impressions I get are kind of the impressions or the feelings that I get. I'm not one for studying when I'm reading.
I study. This isn't a dig. It's just an observation. I'm not an annotator per se. Like, I don't have the kits and the different, I don't even know what the different things are. I'm more of but now with technology, you can do that in different ways.
Can you highlight audiobooks?
There's something you can do, but I'm not sure how it works. And if you don't own the audiobook, I don't know
what the point is.
Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, but somebody will write something, and when I read it, it just hits me, and so I want to keep it. I have notes in my cell phone. Oh, if you read something in Kindle, I use the Kindle app. It'll tie to Goodreads, which is where I do my reviews. If I make notes, if I want to, it'll make them visible there. I do that because a lot of times it's a book from Libby that I don't own, so I want to capture it. I also have books. I got books everywhere. I got books in Google Play. I got books if I read a book within Libby for whatever reason. So I'll make my own notes. So I have notes in my phones, and I just copy and paste and and attribute what book it was, who it was by, all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm more of a highlighter, I guess.
I think
Things that strike me.
in the world, I would be a book notebooker. I've seen people who have book notebooks. They say when they started the book, when they finished the book, what lesson they learned. I would
Right.
really love to do that so that then I can go back. Because, for example, with Octavia Butler's parables, there were things that, and because I read them like 5 or 7 times, and that's probably how, like, there are things that are like key lessons for me. Like, one lesson has to do with community. And that was something that I really, because I tend to be a person who will isolate. I push myself to build community because community is survival, and it's so important. It was reading the parables where that layered onto me, and I was like, oh. But if I wrote my impressions as I was reading it the first time, I might have got that lesson immediately. I don't know. I noticed also nonfiction. I have a couple of nonfiction books that I've listened to. Carter G. Woodson's Miseducation of the Negro. I listened to that. Girl, I probably listened to it 4 or 5 times because as I was listening, I would notice that I was missing things. It's very difficult for me to engage in nonfiction just listening.
Understand that. With nonfiction, I really have to have the book.
Yeah.
Because if I'm reading it and it's a nonfiction book, it's because I want it. So for nonfiction books, I'm gonna purchase it because I read those in a very different way than I read fiction. That's
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and a lot of times I'm gonna read it more than once. It's more of a reference book, I guess.
Right.
And
Right.
so,
Right.
and I know that there are things in there that I'm gonna want to take notes or do something with or share with someone. Yeah, nonfiction. I usually I buy those.
So one I have on my list for today. I had one nonfiction, but there's like two others I think that I have listened to or am listening to. Do you have any nonfiction on your list?
I do the
What do you have on your list that's nonfic?
for the memoirs. So
Oh,
Viola Davis, I have her.
in her voice, isn't it? Did she record
Yes.
it? Yes.
So I had to do that.
Yeah.
Hello. So her Will Smith's memoir, I listened to his. I was gonna buy it, and a girlfriend had listened to the audio version, and she was like, "Do the audio version because it has extra stuff. It has music. It has." So I was like, "Okay." So I did the audio version of that, and then the hard copy book, and
Oh.
I wanted to listen to him talking to me in my ear. Hello.
Right, right. That makes sense with a memoir, especially if it's read by the person. That's beautiful. I'm currently listening to Black Skin, White Masks.
Yeah, it's on my shelf back here.
Okay, okay. This is my first introduction to him, and I'm listening. It's a little tough. I usually will listen to books when I'm washing dishes, when I'm handling clothes, and it seems to work.
You,
It seems to work well, but with this, I'm just kind
I
of
was
like,
gonna say you gotta concentrate.
yeah. It seems with other stuff, it flows. Maybe because I'm just getting the gist of the story, I can get enough to never feel like I'm missing stuff. But with him, I'm like, what? And then I have to go back and listen again. That's going to be a slow one. Another one that I'm still listening to, but I have the physical book is 365 Days of Hoodoo. But I'll usually put that on. Like if I haven't had any problem sleeping, but sometimes I'll just put that on and go to sleep because I know that if I listen to something and I'm sitting, I'm gonna space out and probably go to sleep. I have to be physically active to listen to something. If I'm designing, I'm fine. But if I'm sitting, I'm about to go to sleep.
And see, with the audiobook, I can't be doing something else because it'll draw my focus. When I listen to audiobooks, I'm reading. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm focused on.
Okay, okay, okay. I also listened to Jamaica Kincaid's A Small Place, and I want to read it or listen again. I don't know if she was the narrator or not. Yapo was reading it or listening to it for a book club. So I just happened to be in the room and was drawn in and couldn't get out. My first introduction to Jamaica Kincaid. I want to read it again as opposed to listening to it. I think those might be the only nonfictions that I have on my list. Yeah.
Yeah, I told you mine, the memoirs. So I did a little pros and cons list.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the pros for audiobooks, and this is in general, not just specific to myself as a reader. I talked a little bit earlier about that we learn different. There's some people who never got into reading books and they feel a way about that. It's something that has always bothered them, but they tried audiobooks and fell in love and down the rabbit hole. That speaks to how we accept information and retain information and process information. So audiobooks are very good for people who learn in different ways because we all learn different. And then it can also increase literacy for that reason. And also books are expensive. Hello. Sometimes an audiobook can be more accessible and can be cheaper. You can get them from libraries now. And we have apps now that are strictly for, there's one called Libro, which is specifically
For audio.
yes, but it has a lot of indie authors on it. Libro does. Yeah. And there's another one, I can't think of the name of it. The other pro I wrote was a heightened experience. Like I mentioned earlier that Will Smith had a lot of
Music and
included. And so it's an opportunity for someone who's producing an audiobook or even thinking about doing an audiobook of their writing to layer in different.
it surprised me when I started listening to audiobooks. Years ago, I used to listen to books on tape when I drove and sometimes on the train. But it surprised me how it's just voices in audiobooks. Most audiobooks are just voices. I listened to Diary of a Wimpy Kid, and if I remember correctly, there were other effects in there. Such an opportunity. When
Right.
Ayapo did his sample of one of the stories from Paradigm Void, he had the noise of the office noises, the door slamming. It was so engaging and exciting. And I'm like, all audiobooks should be like this.
Right. I don't know why more people don't take advantage of if you're doing an audio production.
Be a production.
Yeah, to the point that it gets gimmicky, but it can add,
It
it
can
can add layers, especially like a thriller or a scary book. Sound could really heighten the fear or
you're right. Sound yeah.
but
Oh, I was I think it's a Wonderful Life. I can't even remember, but we did a play, and it was supposed to be like a radio show from back in the days when commercials would be recorded live and shows would be recorded. It was so fun, especially for these bigger companies. Y'all don't have a budget to do something other than just voices. I can understand if it was an indie, and I'm like,
Right.
well, all I can do is just record it and try to make it sound exciting. But I'm like, why they stuff so boring? Or I mean, not boring, but it just seems like it's a missed
One note.
opportunity to
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
yeah, well, Kennedy Ryan has a book called Real, Reel. She wrote as an indie. Now they put a new cover on it, and she added, I want to say, an epilogue to it. But the point is, I read that one and I did the audio. I went and did the audio because I heard that you needed to listen to the audio, and they did. They
Ah.
put music, there were sound effects. And that audio book won an award. I want to say it won the big one, and she was the first Black person, not even Black woman, to win that award.
Okay.
It was very.
Yeah. A lot of times a voice is enough to tell a story because we have storytellers and we get stories from our family and friends, and a voice can be enough to tell a story. It doesn't have to be all of that, but it still seems like a missed opportunity. But some of these people, their voices and their personality gives to the story.
I agree. I want to be clear. I'm not saying anything is missing per se. I'm just saying that, since it's an audio production, there are other things that you could do
Right, we
just
got the
to take
audio,
it
we're the
to the next
production.
level. Yeah. And the icing on the cake, the
Hmm.
bells and whistles, if you will.
Literally.
Right, right. To add, emphasis, not necessarily all throughout. It might be certain points. I've heard podcasts that do that. And
Mm.
I listened to this podcast series, matter of fact, interestingly enough, I was finishing listening to it. I was here in Costa Rica, and it was my first time visiting Costa Rica, and I was listening to it at night. It was about switching.
Mm.
And the documentary, the way that it was produced felt more like a story. It was about students. I want to say it's about a specific school in DC. They had music and sound effects and all that. And I was like, yes, you can do that. You can do whatever you want. Ain't no rules. But that was the first time I had heard something like
We
that.
have
They took
sound effects here in this studio. I just tried to add cheering, but I don't know if it worked. Woo! I'll be the sound effect. Yes! Yes! I saw somebody on IG talking about just that with social media. Use transition sounds like whoosh and like all of this other stuff to make it more engaging and exciting. But
Oh, you mean on a post? You mean?
yeah, on a
Oh,
post. Hmm.
I wanted to talk about some cons though.
Okay.
The obvious one, whether you're the author or whether you're a reader, if the narrator isn't right, it's going to be an issue. I only had two cons. The second one is I just don't feel like it's an even playing field for indie authors
Mm.
because it is very costly. And
Hmm.
so that is unfortunate because it is a huge market. More and more people are getting into audiobooks. If it was easier for indie authors to, get into that market, it could be a game changer.
Mm. At least on Amazon, there was a AI audio trial that has made a huge difference in Iapo's. He's getting page turns, but I think they're listens because now the books are audio. And before, to create the audio, how is that going to happen? Now, the experience of the AI videos on YouTube, once I realize they're AI, it kind of like grates on me and annoys me.
Right,
But, and
right.
it, and it's stuff like AI doesn't understand stuff. It'll say, read instead of read or read instead of read. It's like some stuff where it's just like, ew. Like you just know it's not a,
I'm not a fan, not in
yeah.
terms of the arts. So,
But these big companies are definitely using it.
right,
So
right.
anyway, but yeah, audio is a production. To write something is already, but then to try to put together an audio, it's a lot.
Right,
It's a
right.
lot. When we had,
Wait for it.
yeah.
Kelly
Oh,
Morton.
Kelly Morgan. When we had her on the show, she talked about her experience trying to record, and it didn't really work out. And then she found a studio, and it was a little by little type process. It sounds like it was a huge production.
Now, the years ago, my cousin was telling me, "You need to listen to this. You need to listen to this." She had Audible, and she gifted me a membership or some credits or something. She wanted me to listen to this book. I remember I was on jury duty. So it was like the perfect time because you just sitting and waiting in vain. But
I
it was
don't wanna wait in vain for your love.
when I said it, I thought that song immediately went to one of my favorite authors. She is not black. Her name is Jodi Picoult. I listened to Small Great Things.
Mm.
It's narrated, however, by Audra McDonald,
Mm-mm.
black female Tony.
Is she the one who played Billie
No, no, no.
Holiday?
You talking about Audra Day. No, Audra Day is a singer. No, Audra McDonald is an actress. She's a Emmy award-winning actress. And
Who
she's
knew
the one,
Audra was such a popular name?
I think it was, I think it's an old name
Uh,
that people brought back. And that book was awesome. And it didn't hurt that she was the narrator because she's a
Uh-huh.
fantastic actress. I don't know what that budget was, but yeah, that was my first one. When I listened to that, I was like, oh, maybe I need to be trying some more audiobooks because this was great. That one, it was narrated by her, but there was one part, surprise, a man, a male narrator. I was surprised because he came like halfway in to the book, and I was like, okay.
Story? Did it? Was she just living her life and then he came?
No,
Oh no.
no, it was the farthest thing from a love story. Yes, but it was very good. Another interesting one, interesting twist can be language and accent when we're talking about audiobooks, of the narrator and of the story that they're telling. So I've read 3 books from Alexis Daria. She
Mm-hmm.
is of Latin descent. I don't know
Mm.
exact ethnicity. Audio for her, You Had Me at Ola and A Lot Like Audio. And they were done by the same narrator. She has an interesting name too. And it might be a stage name now. Her name is Seraphine Valentina. That's why I said it might be a stage name. But they're books that where people of Latinx culture are centered, and then the narrator is of Latin descent,
Descent.
and exactly, and has an accent. And then in her books, she also incorporates the Spanish language. She does it in a way for non-Spanish speakers to figure out the context. For me, she really could have done it more, but maybe, it would have.
Because you speak more Spanish.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed that. And I want to say I've listened to, or that might have been a sample though. You know how you can listen to a sample too when you wait, especially I'll do it if I'm waiting on a book to see if like the narrator. But I've come across narrators that have like a British accent and so I gotta see if that's something that I'm gonna want to listen to. That's another layer that is interesting to me. I read the book How to Say Babylon. Have you ever
I've
read
never
that
even
book?
heard of it.
That's a good one.
Is it
It's a
fiction?
memoir. It's a
I'm not a big
memoir.
memoir person.
But
Whenever I read them, I tend to enjoy them. But
it reads like, to me, a memoir should read like fiction. It should read like a story. If it doesn't, then I get kind of bored. But it's called How to Say Babylon. Her name is Sophia Sinclair, and she's Jamaican, and it's about her upbringing in Jamaica. Her
uh,
father was Rastafari, and so that's how they were raised. And it looks into the good and the bad. But it was very insightful. And she is, say, she might be 50, but when her coming of age years were at a very volatile time in Jamaica. So you get that history as well. What was going on in Jamaica and how Rastafarians were treated and, kind of how that has evolved in some ways and not. But I bring all of that up to say I've never heard her speak, but I'm guessing that
it's
she
in
has
her
that.
voice.
Yeah, and that would be nice to listen to.
When we were talking about the episode, I mentioned In Every Mirror She's Black and how interesting it was to listen to it. I think I tend to be a lot less sensitive than you to the narrator of an audiobook. It's kind of rare where I'm kind of like, no. That was the first time. There were so many different voices and so many different accents, and it required a lot. But for me, the African American accents were like,
Oh, they were off.
they
I
were,
remember you said,
yeah. That took me out of the story, but not so much that I didn't finish it. I still listened to it, but I was kind of like, boo, stop, cut it out. But it was still a really interesting story. The fact that there were so many voices. One of the main characters was Nigerian American. Then one of the characters was refugee. I want to say Sudan, but I'm not sure if she was Sudanese. I can't remember, but from a Muslim country. The African American. Then it was set in Sweden. The woman who wrote it is Lola Akinmade Akenstrom. So she's married to a
Swedish person.
Yeah, the coldness did a good job. That part of the world seems so unappealing to me. Physically, it seems unappealing. But when she was talking, the culture, the way the culture felt, it felt like cold and awful too. The whole thing is just like, don't go. It's supposed to, yeah. In terms of accents or language use, another one is Chris and Vaughn Plan a Wedding. I listened to that. And one of the characters was black, Spanish speaking. There was a little bit, even to me, it was like very little bit of Spanish, but they did have that layer of language in there.
Yeah, I didn't listen to audio, but I read that. It was a cute story. That was the one with the reality show, right? Yeah.
It was very cute.
Was cute. Yeah. It was an original, you know,
yes.
You hadn't seen it before or heard it before. So.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. I have A Princess Theory by Alyssa Cole on there, and that one was like Coming to America. She was like, they went to Africa, but I'm trying to remember if there were any accents in there. It was more Wakanda-ish. I think it was a fictitious place in Africa. Yeah.
The Nickel Boys. Remember I told you about the Nickel Boys?
I ended up watching the movie.
Oh, you did?
Yes, yeah, because we talked about it.
About Dozier, just like the Reformatory was. And so
I listened to the Reformatory.
Okay. I listened to the Nickel Boys before I read Reformatory, but I was very eager to see how each of the authors handled this true life place. Mm-hmm. And both of them were fabulous. But the Nickel Boys, that one was very good. The audio was very good. It was one narrator. Jacoby D. I hope so, since I'm calling out names. Yikes. But it was very good. And so you did find that
movie. We watched the movie, but it didn't inspire me to want to read the book. Remember I told you I have read that author's work before. I read The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. And after that, I was kind of like, ugh. So when you said, the Nickel Boys, I was like, oh, well, maybe I should. But then after I watched the movie, I'm kind of like, I'm good with the Reformatory. I'll let that be my book for this subject matter at this time. Right. Okay. But I thought the movie was good. Yeah.
Another one I really like is The Secret Lives of Church Ladies.
Listen to that one. Is this the only overlap we have?
No, we both also listened to
One of Our Kind.
We did. But The Secret Lives of Church Ladies.
I did. You mentioned it in something, and so when I saw it, I was like, oh, let me listen. I loved it. I thought it was really an interesting piece. Yeah.
It was very good. Going in, I didn't know they were short. You
had mentioned that already.
Right.
So I knew going in.
The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. If you haven't read that or listened to it, whatever medium you want, that is an excellent book.
Yes.
It was a bunch of short stories, so you have a bunch of different characters, and she nailed them.
It was well written, interesting, very subtle in terms of the subject matter. It wasn't.
It didn't beat you over the head. Yeah, but I wish I had in my notes who the narrator was, because she did an excellent job.
Okay. The book that I'm listening to now is The Next Thing is Joy, The Gospel According to Vivian Grace, and it's by an author called Tracy McHale Lewis Giggets. I like the cover. And I love the title. Apparently it's a trilogy. There's something about the way that she's handling religion that goes away to me. It's something really sitting well with me. And maybe by the time I do my 2-line review, I'll have it clear. This one is about a woman who was in the Black Panthers. There's some interesting historical stuff going on. Yeah. Not exactly. Huh?
You said it's a trilogy.
Yeah, it's a trilogy. Mother, the grandmother, and the daughter. 3 generations of women and their stories. This one deals with domestic violence, real heavy and intense. there are some things about it that I really don't like. All the stories we can tell, and there are lots of stories we can tell that are true. Sometimes the stories that we choose to tell support a certain narrative. Everybody has the right to tell whatever story they want to tell. In this one, are there any black men who aren't like terrible? That's what I was thinking about last night when I went to bed. I don't know. I wish there could have been. I don't know. There are a lot of things I'm like 45 minutes out, but it was only a 4-hour book, so I'm pretty close to the end. She did mention COINTELPRO and how that tore things up, so I'm kind of like, okay, and there are people who have like serious issues, whether they're black revolutionaries or not. There are a lot of people who are cuckoo crazy, who need a lot of support and a lot of help.
Right.
So, I mean, that's just what's real. Ever hate that I read a book? Every book is interesting to read or to hear. Like, there are a lot of stories out there. I enjoy listening to different people's stories, and like we've said before, I respect somebody writing a story. If I was in the position to like approve or deny, I was the publishing house, I would have denied that story.
Another one of my favorites is Tiffany D. Jackson. She is a young black writer. I give her early to mid 30s, I think. She writes mystery and suspense.
Okay.
I would even call it thriller. It's nothing, it's not gory. Well, this one is a little gory. It's a retelling of Carrie.
I saw that. I saw somebody talking about it or the cover or something. Now that you mention that,
it's not a new book. It's called The Weight of Blood.
Okay.
And I've read most of her books. The newer one I haven't done yet, but The Weight of Blood. So I said I've read had the book and read it, but I said I saw it come up when I searched for it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna do an audio version of her book. I really enjoyed it, and I mean, I didn't think I wouldn't because she is super duper talented. But the way that she wrote this one, it's like, I'm not really giving it away because we know the story of Carrie pretty much, but the main character is a black girl. And it's like someone is going back, someone has a podcast, and so the podcast is the central narration. So there's a podcast, and they are doing a special limited series about what happened in this town with this girl. And they're interviewing people who were there. Got people, doctors telling about telekinesis and all of these things. So it was interesting how she constructed
the story.
Right. Better do it, Tip. She's awesome.
I didn't want to read it because Harry, but now that you tell me that,
it's worth it. You should go ahead.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see how she did it because, I mean, Carrie, this was one of the last ones of hers that I read because when I heard it was a retelling of Carrie, I was like,
I didn't want to hear the first telling, let alone the retelling.
I'm like, we know that story. Like, what? We don't want to
But
do that.
there's something, we Romeo and Juliet, it's a lot of stories that we know how they go and you still want to see how they go. It's all of romance.
Well, so I said she is one favorite author of mine. So if it were somebody else, I would have passed. I was like, I'm going to give it a shot. And of course, she stepped up to the plate. So yeah, that one definitely. The narration was very good. I'm trying to remember if it was single narrator. I can't remember honestly, but it was very good. You will not be disappointed. I think another crossover we had, didn't we both listen to the audio of Such a Fun Age?
It sounds cute though. Such a fun age. What age is that? 54, 53? How old am I? Such a fun age. It's a great title.
It is. That's what drew me to it originally. The title is by Kylie Reed.
By who?
Kylie Reed. And I really, really enjoyed that one. It was a great story. And so when I saw her next one, I was like, oh, She has a new one. I'm gonna read that one. And I did the audio. Finished it. I was gonna DNF it because, and I was surprised. It just, for me,
It
was
wasn't hidden.
was all over the place. I was like,
Oh,
what is man? I mean, I'd like to talk to some other people who read that book to see,
ah,
because I had heard good things about it. For me,
okay.
I had a different experience. Yeah, I don't know, but I did the audio of that one too.
Okay. I can't remember what you were talking about, but books that lend themselves to listening is what I wrote in my notes. And I listened to Zora Neale Hurston of Zora Neale Hurston's of Mules and Men. It lends itself to listening because of the language. And what I have never listened to, it was good, of course. But what I have never listened to is J. California Cooper. But when I've never listened to any of the audio, but I always, when I read it out loud because I feel like it's supposed to be heard. So it makes me think, I should listen to some J. California Cooper. The other note that I had is predictable books. We listen to predictable things all the time. Beverly Jenkins on my list. I haven't reviewed yet. I listened to her Rebel. And like I said on one of my little reviews, with Beverly Jenkins, it's gonna be the love story after they get together. Then the criminal that's been lurking in the cut is gonna cut up and do some mess, and then they gonna live happily ever after. So that was a good one. And I also listened to of somebody who I've listened to to me a lot of their stuff is I Think I Might Love You by Christina C. Jones. I enjoyed both of those, and I feel like they're kind of like eating mac and cheese. It's just comfortable. Everybody's mac and cheese is different, but almost everybody's mac and cheese is gonna be comforting on some level. Sometimes you'd be like, "Oh, it's so good," but most of the time, even if it's not, "Oh, it's so good," it's still good. You still want it. Yeah. And I have a couple of books on my list that I got from a social media recommendation. Plie is one that I listened to. And girl, that was some raunchiness. Well written and not gratuitous raunchiness. The people were into a very sexual lifestyle. I could see the sexual healing in the context of that story. I could see how their sexual relationship was healing them and helping them to grow and develop. So I really appreciated that. There's so much erotica that feels like it's just for the purpose of sex, like pornography, like sex with a little story around it. But this story that definitely centered sex was meaty. I appreciated that. Maybe the other one I was thinking about in terms of social media is Wendy Williams' book. You remember Wendy Williams, the television talk show host? I don't know what she up to these days. And the radio show. And I knew that she had written books. I finally listened to one of her books. And it was well done. Now again, if it was an editorial decision, I'd have passed on that one. It can't go through Doaya Media. But it was well put together. It was well written. And it definitely felt like New York 1980. It felt like a time and a place to me. I wasn't looking for it. I just stumbled upon it. And I was like, Wendy Williams. So this is the one that I was thinking of that was from social media. There's a woman who is maybe a doctor. Her last name is Obu Obi. I think she's Ghanaian because the character in the book is Ghanaian. And it was a book called Between Friends and Lovers. And I came across hers on Instagram. I read the book out of curiosity because her Instagram page didn't feel like an author page, So I was just curious. Well, what are her books like? And that was interesting. That's another one that would have been borderline in terms of publication, but from Doaya Media. But the way that it turned out, I approved of it. So, but it was a little dicey in there.
Okay.
But it was well written and interesting, and it featured a black male author as one of the main characters. So it's something when writers write about writers that seems kind of cute to me. Main characters that are writers, I like that.
So one thing I wanted to do, I felt like we needed to do, is to give some tips, for anybody who is thinking about doing an audiobook because
Oh.
I've done, I've done research. And so I'm not going to go deep into it, but I wanted to give some tips for the authors who are listening, who are thinking about doing an audiobook. Tip is to do your research because there are many, many production companies out here, and there are even more narrators out here. So just do your research and understand that there are different types of narration. So you have options about the treatment of your story. You have fully voiced, you have partially voiced, meaning that some stories are every character has a voice. Some stories are only partially voiced. So maybe your main characters are voiced. When I say voiced, I mean they have a character voice, but the rest of the story may be just told as a narrator. And then you have voice, which means that they're literally just it's someone that has a nice voice, of course, but they are literally reading. It's a straight reading of the book. There are no characters per
Mm.
se. And then you have like multicast when you have several narrators that are doing many different voices. When you go into it, also have an idea of the type of voice you want, at least for your main character. I'm hoping you would know the voice when you hear it, but know what type of voice you want for your
Mm.
main character so you can already have that filter in your mind. And I think it'll be really helpful if you know your target audience or your perfect reader,
Mm-hmm.
because that is going to help you determine what type of voice you want for
Mm.
your main characters. And I would say you audition narrators, but make sure you don't just get samples of their work. I mean, that should be like the first layer, but you want them to read your work before you make any decisions and create character write-ups. So it's helpful if not, I mean, a narrator will read your story, but you know your characters better than anybody. So do a write-up of the characters to give them an idea of who they are,
Mm-hmm.
any idiosyncrasies, bad habits. Just give
Mm-hmm.
them, you need to do that character development for them, give it to them, and include pronunciations because, especially for us, we may have some names up in there. Include pronunciations of the names, and then understand. Especially for indie authors, when we start talking about the budget, some narrators will work for a percentage of the sales. You can pay them a down payment and then you can give them a percentage of the sales, and that can be a much more affordable way to do it. Some will accept installments.
Mm.
So, just, and I'm saying that to myself too, to really don't think it is out of the realm of possibility for you. See, some people will be open, especially if you have people who are
Mm.
newer narrators who are building their portfolios. Also know that but if not all, most are paid per finished. That's the rate at which they're paid. I think somewhere I saw that the average novel is, because when you have self-help and nonfiction, they tend to be shorter. Most novels are about 10 hours, so that can be a guide, if you will. And if you are brave enough to narrate yourself, I say to definitely do your research about that, about what that entails. A lot of narrators have gone to school for this, they're actors, that sort of thing. They know how to treat their voice, is what I mean. So do your research in terms of what you need to do to stay healthy and be healthy, and take classes if you can. Take some classes because you spent all of this time writing this book. You want to give the best performance, the best product you can to your readers, and take your time. This is not something you want to rush. If you're a reader, you've listened to audiobooks, and if you have not, you need to listen to a lot of audiobooks and get a cross section, different genres of different authors, different points of view, so that you can just have an idea of kind of what you like and what you don't. going into it. And that piece, I would say overall, whether you're doing it yourself or not, just listen to audiobooks to know what you like. And so those are my tips.
Tips. I have some thoughts. One thought I have, and I don't know if you got this when you put out Love at Second Sight, but when Melanin came out, we heard all the time, is it on audio? Is it on audio? Have you gotten that with? There is a huge demand for people to listen to books. So I think it depends on the story. Some stories may be story driven, and those stories, if you can get the story out, even if it's not perfect, if you can get it onto audio and somehow prioritize that, even as an independent author, people are doing things at home. Audacity is
Oh,
open source and it's free. I would encourage people to experiment with things because and get their story out audio as quickly as they can, whatever that means. For some people that may mean 5 years, for some people that may mean 5 months. There seems to be a huge demand. I just looked at my notes. We had a conversation about literacy a while ago, but because I do work with language learning and we talk about 4 modalities: second language learning, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, I don't think of listening as literacy. I think that listening can stimulate critical thinking. Listening can transmit stories, but I don't think of listening as a way to increase literacy. You have to read to increase literacy. You can increase your familiarity with stories or different ideas by listening, most definitely. But they're on two separate tracks. There's some overlap, but they're on two separate tracks.
said earlier when I said it can increase literacy, I think what I meant was for people who always thought they didn't like reading and then they get into listening to audiobooks, I think that there are a good swath of those people who will then give books another,
Yeah.
will become better readers
When
because
you
of that.
find the stories that you like, because there's something, it's just like I don't like talking. Well, it depends on what you're talking about. There's something for everybody. I mean, some people don't like talking, but I'm just saying there are stories that you can enjoy if you can find them and if you find them by listening. And I don't think there's anything wrong with only listening to stories. A person can live a full, beautiful, intelligent life without reading, in my opinion. There are different modes of learning and different modes of engaging in the world. I'm not convinced that you have to read to have a full intellectually developed life. I enjoy reading. Just like design work stimulates you in a different way, listening to music stimulates you in a different way. The more engagement that our brain gets, the better. So, um, okay. Okay. I feel like I guess whatever this little gem of wisdom that I had is going to just be lost unless it just comes back some other time. But for now, I think I'm good.
So I wanted to hit, I think I talked about the books that I wanted to talk about. I actually have a audiobook waiting for me now. It's the second Davenport. The Davenport
Oh, the Davenports. Let me look at the cover.
is yellow. This one is lavender. So this is the second
Ah,
one. And it's the same family, but I think it's going to focus on that younger sister.
sister.
I can't remember now. I think it's going to concentrate either on the sister or the cousin. And I can't clearly remember the first one because I read that.
A while ago.
Yeah. So I feel like maybe if I go back, look, and read my detailed review,
That's a book in and of itself.
it might jog my memory.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. Yeah, I might start a book notebook because sometimes when I'm listening as a writer, I think I really like how they did that. You know, in any story, even when I'm watching stuff, I'm like, that's a really interesting way of showing, that aspect of the character. So yeah, my cousin Jerry, who's a writer, he says that when he's in his writing mode, he don't listen to other people. He won't read nothing. He can't have no other voices in his head but his writing voice. And you're not like that. You're saying,
No, I mean not for me. When I'm just literally writing so much that just the time.
yeah. Another thing that I've noticed from the podcast is that, and I noticed it with my husband, but a lot of the authors say something to the effect of, my story is cinematic. It's like a movie or a TV show. Most people say it's like a movie. And I think that it's because a lot of people who are writers did not come to storytelling from reading. They came to storytelling from visual media, like movies and television shows. Anybody can pick up a pen and write, but to do a movie or a TV show requires more than pen and paper and an idea. So there's something to that that seems connected. Audiobooks fill in between reading and watching TV or a movie, because you still have to form images in your head. You still have to create your own visual. What?
But you have to do that when you're reading a book too.
Right. It's close to reading a book because you still have to create your own visual. But when I read a book, I have a voice in my head. And when I listen, it's somebody else's voice. Just like when you watch stuff, it's their voice, their image, their visuals. So The Hunger Games. When I read The Hunger Games, I had certain visuals. That's one of the few movies that I watched that I was really feeling the visuals. Sometimes when I watch the movies or hear the voices, I'm like, was what? Peter.
Yeah, no.
You know what visuals I'm thinking about in the main city? The opulence, the makeup, the food, the way they acted.
The waist.
Yeah, the waist. Right. I like watching historical fictions, the costuming and the sets. So for me, The Hunger Games kind of hit that. But a lot of times I prefer my own visuals and my own audio. I prefer to read and let my imagination do all of the work. But an audio book is kind of like in between.
But I think most readers are that way. Mm-hmm. They don't like adaptation.
That was one of the topics that we said we were going to do, talk about some books and movies. But anyway, since the last time we talked, we have a Black Writers Group daily sprint from noon to 2. I think not the last time we talked, but one time you like, well, you talking about right on, you going to go right, or you just talking?
Right.
Love soiree is stressing me out so much. I'm back to working on it, and I'm really trying to keep my attitude together. But I have a sprint. I'm going to be writing, editing, or reading in 2 hours.
And day is Indie Authors Day.
So on that note, every day is Indie Author Day. It's Indie Authors, let's go on and write. And whenever you see this or hear this, support an indie author or 2 or 20. There's always plenty of indie authors out there to support and make them effort. It's easy to support the mainstream. It's harder to find and support the indie authors. So every day is Indie Author Day. Yes,
and every day we need your support. And don't forget to review,
rate, recommend. The 3 R's.
Yes.
Let's support and love indie authors. They may not have the same resources, but they're trying to get their vision out there in their way. And let's honor and respect and support that so that they have more and more resources to get their vision out there in their way, in their voice.
Exactly.
So have a good writing day. Right on. You got your pen out? Right on. You don't have your fancy pen? Okay, you have to hold it like this.
Oh, sorry.
Reading, learning, growing, creating, while building, living, thinking, healing, loving, building, writing while black.